Hi again, everyone. It's Chad Harberts with the Chad Harberts Show, and the 2026-27 high school sports season is really underway. Girls tennis has started, volleyball, football, those sports are practicing. Will play later on this month, but it's time to get into high school sports for this year. And we got a great guest today. We've got a guy who's involved in not only high school volleyball, but also club volleyball, has his finger on the pulse of the entire statewide volleyball scene. Let's bring in Zac Ceresa. Hi, Zac.
How's it going?
Good to see you again. It's been almost a year since I saw you. I think last time I saw you at a Hudson volleyball match.
It has been. It's been a crazy year. I had our 8-month-old son back in November. This was my first full season of chairman of Iowa AAU volleyball. Another good club season. It's been busy.
So let's get people caught up with your history in volleyball, playing and coaching.
Yeah, I played volleyball all through high school. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. I actually came to Iowa to Mount Mercy University, go Stangs, to play men's volleyball. Ended up doing that for about 2 years, switched over to just strictly coaching. Got my first club job at Adrenaline Volleyball Academy in Cedar Rapids and a high school job at Cedar Rapids Xavier. I got to learn under Austin Filer, who was a great coach. We went to state both years, 2019 and 2020. And in 2020, we actually won state. So that was awesome to be a part of that team. Upon graduating college, I accepted a teaching job in Grinnell, Iowa, and a coaching job at Grinnell College under Eric Reagan, which is Division III there. Took a new club job at Six Pack Volleyball Club here in Cedar Falls. And after 2 years of Grinnell College, I saw the high school job open in town and felt like that was my sign to get back into the high school realm. So left the college, took over the high school, had 2 amazing years there. First year, getting these kids to fall back in love with volleyball and make a lot of changes to our structure. Second year, we were ranked almost the entire season, made the regional final, losing to North Scott, who eventually, I believe, took second at state that year. Just an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. Still coaching at Six Pack at the time as well. Then when my wife and I found out we were having our first child, we needed to move closer to family. And I received a call from Kevin Werzer, the athletic director here at Hudson. And it's much closer to Six Pack. Instead of driving 5 hours a week, we're only driving 40 minutes a week to club practice. Took a teaching job at Basco, and that's where I'm at now. So teaching at Basco, coaching at Hudson, still coaching club at Six Pack. This is going to be my 6th year there, and I'm also their youth director and one of our club directors now. And I'm also the chairman of Iowa AAU Volleyball. So that's all the little small town club teams in the state. I have the incredible opportunity to kind of oversee them and help them make things happen. So it's been an awesome journey and experience. There's a bunch of other things on the resume too, but those are the big things that have shaped me here in the state. So excited to do something else for the state.
So before we unpack all the great stuff in high school volleyball, and there's a lot, let's talk Six Pack for a second. Club volleyball is very big when it comes to U18, U17, all the way down to U12, U10, whatever you want, volleyball. I know you get kids from Waukee, from Roland Story, from Union, from all over coming to Cedar Falls to play. Just, I guess, give me a little background on the whole club volleyball scene.
Yeah, volleyball is the quickest growing female sport in Iowa. And we say that statement and we usually think we're talking about high school rosters, which, yes, that's growing rapidly as well. And it is still the fastest growing, but we don't realize our AAU small town participation numbers are up by almost 300 kids within 1 year from last year to this season. Club volleyball's blown up. We went from back when Jay started Six Pack only having 4 or 5 major clubs in Iowa to now at least 10 to 15 major clubs in Iowa, let alone all the other USAV clubs. So I think historically, Iowa's always been a little bit lower on the club depth chart just to population density. But we have seen in the last couple of years, Iowa very rapidly moving up the ranks. You have a very dominant open level team out of Des Moines for the 16U age group called Iowa Premier, coached by Liz, Plum, and Michael. You have a club like Powerplex out of Des Moines that is qualifying almost all their top teams every single year. Six Pack is the longest running club in Iowa, and we've qualified the most teams and won the most national championships out of anyone. So we're still very dominant as well. And then you have teams like in clubs, Iowa United out of Iowa City and Iowa Rockets, who are doing a good job there, training the kids and winning championships there as well. So I think Iowa's slowly caught up. We see our athletes doing well at the club level, but the interesting thing is our collegiate level athletes from the Iowa club volleyball scene are actually outperforming many other states. So although our quantity is significantly lower than almost every other major volleyball state, the longevity and the impactfulness of our collegiate athletes is far outweighing a lot of other states. And that's been really cool to watch as well.
I'm just going to take an educated guess here, but I'm going to guess that volleyball is growing so fast because girls are seeing, one, more college opportunities, and two, we know for a fact that girls are drifting towards non-contact sports, which is why volleyball and track and field are exploding. Girls basketball is starting to shrink. Am I in the ballpark there?
I believe so. I think one of the other reasons is less looking at volleyball itself and maybe looking at some of the other sports. Volleyball, it's a very quickly changing game. The game has changed very rapidly, just even over the last 3 or 4 years. And a lot of coaches who have been coaching volleyball a very long time have started to get out of the game. So you have a newer, younger influx of coaches that can learn from the experienced coaches that are still in the game. Versus, I think if you look at a basketball program, maybe even some softball programs, you have coaches that have been there, a majority of them been there for 20 plus years. And I think that definitely changes as the game's evolved, having coaches that have been brought in and raised in that newer version of the game as well.
So let's unpack some high school volleyball here. We need to start with, I guess, first of all, the classifications, because there's been a lot of shakeup up and down. And after you and I talked on the phone yesterday, I went kind of up and down through it a little bit. It's really moved a lot. So let's just start at the top. When you look at 5A, and the thing that I saw there just off a glance is the defending state champions from North Scott having to move up into 5A.
Yeah, that's going to be a program to watch out for. Their club scene, while we were talking about that, they predominantly flow out of a club called Platform Elite and Iowa Select. Iowa Select is a very talented club. Frank Flanagan does an incredible job leading them. And although North Scott did just go through a coaching change, it does not change the underlying fact that the talent pool is there, the training is there, the naturally competitive schedule, which I think is vastly underlooked in high school volleyball. The naturally competitive schedule's there due to their conference. They're definitely going to be scary in 5A, that's for sure. And I think another school, just by chance, is the other major move up to 5A. Dallas Center Grimes, DCG, is not only a state contender, but potentially a state champion contender too. We're going to talk about some other teams, but that is a fully loaded club volleyball team filled in with vastly versatile and impactful athletes from other sports too. They're going to be more than successful at the 5A level. You have your returning state champs in Joaquin Northwest, who are building a dynasty as we speak. They're a brand new school, relatively speaking, and they're already making waves. Ankeny Centennial is always going to be one to watch out for. And then you can't talk volleyball without talking about Iowa City West. That is a roster full of Division I volleyball players, collegiate level volleyball players that are just going to be making some big waves for that school, putting them back on the map in their volleyball season. And that I don't know if they've been back since Live Like Line way back in the day. Last year was their first year back at state. It's going to be a tough team to beat for sure.
Well, when we talk about girls sports, we always talk about the CIML because it's so loaded in girls sports. And the Final Four last year, Joaquin Northwest, Ankeny Centennial, Valley, and Ankeny, they all have to play each other all year. It happens the same thing in girls basketball. It happened this year in softball. It's just the girls sports in that league is so strong, and they always seem to end up in the Final Eight. A bunch of them do.
High population density, high talent pools. I mean, we can talk about transfers and moves, but it doesn't change the fact that at the end of the day, volleyball is one of the only sports the one kid can't carry a team, not to a championship at least. And so you're right, that's the IML. It's just loaded, high talent, naturally competitive schedule, good coaches. It's a great storm for some state champions and state qualifiers.
Class 4A, we just talked about, is going to have a new champion this year because North Scott's no longer in Class 4A. Last year, Sioux Center was the state runners-up. You've got Pella, you've got Clear Creek of Mana. Dallas Center Grimes, who was in the tournament last year, is now in 5A. So 4A looks like it could be open to some new teams making it a state.
Yeah, 4A is really up for grabs in my perspective. You have the 3A reigning state champs that have moved up to 4A in Davenport Assumption. They're very, very well coached. Another coach from Iowa Select is their head coach, and he does an incredible job as well. I think it'll be interesting to see how a team like Clear Creek and Manad, who's always loaded with talent, does. The two movements down from 5A are Cedar Rapids, Washington, Davenport North. Cedar Rapids, Washington has a great coach. He's actually the men's volleyball chair for the state of Iowa, for the region, the USAV men's volleyball chair, Jaime. But yeah, I think 4A is up for the grabs. A lot of very solid teams. We actually saw a couple really good 4A teams move down to 3A. We'll talk about in a sec. So honestly, it's up for grabs. I'm excited to see which teams can push through first season and get it done.
And when you talk about Cedar Rapids, Washington, you're talking about a school who would be a very small 5A and having to play the Cedar Fallses and the Iowa Cities and those, and now becomes the biggest school in Class 4A.
That is correct. And Jaime is an exceptional coach. Cedar Rapids area, high talent pool. I don't know if they'll be a state contender, but I know they're getting the training to do so. I'm excited to see if their success rate goes up in a class that is much more obtainable for their success.
Class 3, as you said, Assumption's the defending state champs. They won in a 3-game sweep last year, but now they're up in 4A. You've got Humboldt, Kemper Catholic, and Western Christian were all in the Final Four last year. I look out at the Final 8. I see Mount Vernon, and Mount Vernon's always good in girls programs across the board. So 3A is going to be a very difficult class, even with Assumption moving out of it.
People can say what they want. 3A is almost always the most competitive class, and this year it is hands down the most competitive class for volleyball in the entire state. Hands down. You do have the Western Christians who are loaded. We'll get to my school in a sec, but we just played them last week at a camp, and they were absolutely insane. They have returners Maddie DeJagger and Morgan Kuhlman, who are just all-state level kids who can terminate almost every single ball they touch. Humboldt returns the majority of their core roster. Setter Addie Waldorf, middle Addie Goodall, outsider Jazzy Dodd. They did graduate a couple kids like Kendall Works, who was a sneaky state dominant player for them wherever they needed her. Addie Goodall's older sister, Olivia Goodall, outside hitter Mia Schulter, who ended up going to Simpson College this year, but they'll still be very, very, very good. If not a state champion contender. Kemper Catholic, you already said. Red Oak is a team who I actually believe might be in 2A this year. I'm going to have to check the beds on that, but they were a state team last year for 3A. Roland Story, although they lost in the regional final, we already played them last week, and setter Miley Geis runs that show. Molly Geis is the coach, and that is one of those groups of kids we'll talk about eventually later where you have a core group of seniors that is very talented. So Roland Story is always good at volleyball, but this core group of seniors is going to lead them to do big things this year for sure. Cherokee, my goodness, I do not want to have to ever face Cherokee this season. That is the 2A Hinton version of 3A. Just huge, multiple collegiate volleyball kids from out west. Just absolutely terrifying. Mount Vernon, Maggie Willems just always coaches an incredible team. They're always going to be a state contender. It does not matter who they have on their roster. Wilton, Leah Caffrey is just an incredible, one of the best setters in the state in general. She's their setter that she can carry them back to that regional final, potentially make a push for state. Unity Christian, I mean, very solid program. Center Point Urbana, big junior, senior class. But now we have some of the teams that moved from 4A to 3A that I think we definitely need to give some credit to. I mean, Solon did graduate almost every starter. But at the end of the day, they have a serious coach, Ruben Galvin, who put West Liberty on the map a bunch of years ago. He's been their coach now at Solon for, I think this is his 3rd or 4th season. They were a state contender last year. They'll be good again this year, especially in a class below. Nevada, I mean, that's a top 15 program every single year that is now dropping down to 3A. And MOC Floyd Valley has potentially one of the best hitters in the state. They moved down, and we got to talk about D&H. Dyke New Hartford is the only, in my opinion, the only plug-and-play program in the state where you could take one of their JV2 kids and put them onto that varsity court, and although the level of volleyball might change, the execution will pretty much be the same. Like, they know what they're doing all up and down. I think they're definitely going to be a state contender for 3A2. So although that's a lot of schools, I hate to say it, this is the class to watch this year for sure.
Well, and you look at the all-state teams, and you mentioned some of these players. You're talking about Addie Goodall. She was the only non-senior on the first team 3A all-state last year. She was a sophomore a year ago. And you start looking up and down some of these all-state teams. We talk about like Clear Creek and Julia Schlarbaum, who was a 3rd-team all-stater last year as a sophomore. Yeah, there's a lot of individual talent coming back in that class.
Absolutely. 4A, CCA's got those returners and a bunch of other schools. 3A, I don't think it matters at the end of the day. We're going to have great teams in every class. It just, I hate to be a 3A school this year where almost every team you play in 3A is going to be a potential state contender. And it's an exciting, natural schedule competition packer, but definitely a tough road.
Class 2A, which I know you're very familiar with because most of the NICL resides in Class 2A. And last year, the NICL had 5 teams go to state. Denver repeated as state champions, but Denver graduates that huge class of girls that have carried them through volleyball and girls basketball and soccer the last couple of years. I know Grundy Center has their middle back in Ryan Brubaker. Dyke is now out of this class. And then obviously, I saw your team last year. You got a lot of returners off a 27-win team. I would think that Hudson's going to be a contender when it comes to Class 2A.
I hope so. On paper, Hudson is for sure. We have the talent. We have the drive. I want to get it done now. I want to get it done. First time since 2021 or even 2020 with Ashlyn Kuhn, a Drake alumni who's actually back on our staff this year. So I would say Hudson's a team to watch. Paige Davis is Division I hitter. Natalie Roush is Division I hitter. Jordy Rhodes, Division I softball player potentially. We have just a very solid team. Freshman Briar Bowers helps as well. I think you're right. The NICL is only getting better. And although 2A lost Dyke going to 3A and 2A lost Wapsie Valley, a state team, to 1A, we'll talk about that in a sec, Grundy Center is just going to be so hard to stop. I don't know if Lori Willis at Grundy ever struggles to get buy-in from her kids. They're just always there to compete. They're always there to work hard. They're scary. We've seen Beckman Catholic already this summer. That is top 5 team this year. They have a pair of twins on the team, Joy and Jalen Burkle, who are just unstoppable. Their setter, Paige Fangman, is back. Unfortunately, I believe she's out with an injury, but that doesn't change the fact that she's got some major leadership skills that she can bring to this team. Appleton Parkersburg was the sneaky state surprise last year, upsetting Riverside in the regional final in 5 in overtime points. Although they graduated some pretty major seniors, the kids that actually, I think, performed that game against Riverside all returned, so that's big for them. I do think you have these teams with great senior classes like Riverside, who we saw was top 5 team for volleyball all year, did not make it to state. Riverside, who was the number 1 softball team all year with the same class, lost in the regional final again. But I think when you get to these smaller schools, you have great senior classes, and then you have great programs. So you have a Dyke New Hartford in 3A, who's always a great program. Does not matter the senior class. You have teams like Riverside who have great seniors. I'm interested to see how they do this year, graduating as many kids. Same thing with Denver. I mean, it's a great program. They have a new coach. Phil's had a lot of coaching experience in the club world. They have a couple big freshmen on the team, and it doesn't change the fact that Adina Murch is still there. And Adina Murch is one of the leaders in the state. So Hinton, got to watch out for. Central Lions, going to be a team to watch. Woodward Granger has one of the most terminal kids in 2A. She's an absolute animal. Union, top 5, 6 team all of last season. Wapsie took them by surprise in the regional final, but Union's going to be tough this year. I am excited to see how 2A pans out. I do think losing Dyke and Wapsie opens up a lot of opportunities here, though, for teams. So hopefully a Hudson or a Central Lion or a Woodward Granger can kind of step in and fill that and bring a new team to state. That would be pretty great.
Well, and you kind of beat me to the punch with Union Community because they're always kind of sneaky good. They didn't get to state last year, but they're one of those teams, any given night, you don't want to face them. I know Taylor Smith plays for your club team, right?
Yes.
She was a stater last year. Coach Jesse's always got, whenever I see him play, he's always got a sneaky good team.
It's consistency. It is over the top consistency that we talked about AAU volleyball, but they have multiple AAU teams for every age group from 4th grade on up. And they're doing the same things at that 4th grade that they are their senior years for AAU and stuff. I think the crazy thing about consistency, though, is there's consistency that can adapt. And I know this summer that program's worked really hard on like adapting to change while staying consistent, which is every coach's dream. You want a consistent team that can handle change. And I think that's what happened last year in that regional final was Wapsie threw some things at them that Wapsie hadn't done all season and Union hadn't had to play against all season. So that's going to be a scary group. When they keep their consistency, like you said, And now they had their ability to handle some of that weird stuff and that change and adapt. That is 1000% a state contending team as well.
I'm looking at 1A now, where St. Ansgar was the state champion, and we've done feature stories of how St. Ansgar has built this incredible athletics program, boys and girls, the last couple of years. And then I see Janesville, runners-up last year, Shelley Sorensen, one of the greatest coaches in Iowa history. Dunkerton, I know Kylie Pex is back, and they always got a good girls program there. Nortema's always pretty solid. You look at the rest of that, Gladberg-Reinbeck made state last year, but of course, Kennedy Brandt moved on to Wartburg. That's going to be a big loss for them. But 1A is the catch-all for the rest of the teams in the state. And with Wapsie dropping down, as good as some of these teams are, and they are year after year, they should be pretty competitive.
I love watching 1A volleyball. I love watching it because it is the definition of you got to be good at everything. You have schools that have 8 girls in a class. I know some of Janesville's younger grades only have 8 girls in the entire grade. And then you have schools that maybe have a little closer to 20 girls a grade. And so it's very awesome to see what these coaches do at this level to be successful. Yes, St. Ansgar graduated, I think everyone, but that you're right. Just the athletic blood runs deep in this program. Their weight program is state of the art. They have the facilities for it. I mean, we played them last week at IGCA, and that was one of the scrappiest teams we had played all of camp. So definitely keep them in mind as well. I think you hit it right on the nose. Janesville is going to be so hard to stop. And just when you think Janesville will graduate a kid, you got another one coming up. Yeah. They got an incredible freshman, Lucy, who's a setter and a hitter. I don't know how much court time she'll see, but the point I'm making is even with a class of only 7 or 8 girls, Janesville's consistently with Shelley Sorensen putting out these crazy elite level teams. So Janesville is one of my state predictions for sure. Austin Shepard at Wapsie. I don't know how he does it. It almost seems like Austin makes a list at the start of the season of all the things that work in Iowa high school volleyball, like the crazy shots, the schemes, the defensive measures, all of it. And then he robotically trains his team to do it. I saw them play 5A teams last week and destroy 5A teams last week at IGCA. Doing it didn't matter who was hitting or who was passing. They would throw to a corner. They'd go sharp cross. They'd always be passing high and off the net, be in system almost 100% of the time. I don't know how he does it, but that is going to be an extremely tough team to beat this year. Dunkerton, Kylie Pex is a stud. They returned the number 1A blocker in the entire, actually, I think she's the number 1 blocker in the entire state. Taylor Kipp returns for that team. Right. She's for sure the number 1 blocker in 1A. I'd have to double check to see the ball flashes.
Big, 6 foot tall, really athletic. I watched her help take Dunkerton to the girls basketball tournament.
She's incredible. And she's versatile. I know last year they had her pass a little bit, hit middle, hit right side, hit a ball on the outside. The way these 1A coaches can make their teams do the things that we wish a single kid could do on our bigger programs is incredible. BCLUW will be an interesting team to watch. They graduated Grace Barnesworth, one of their outsides. They currently still have Olivia Peters, but Olivia Peters, I think, is the scoring lifeline of that team. But if she's doing well, that team's doing well. If she has an injury or something, I don't know where that team's going to land, but they're definitely going to be a tough team. Boyden Hall, I got to watch last week. And although Boyden Hall went 14-20 last season, they're in one of the toughest conferences in the state. So that natural competitiveness of schedule is something to watch out for. North Tama is phenomenal. Always a team to watch. I'm excited to see a Sydney potentially come back to state. They return almost everybody, and that's a team that out west we sometimes forget about. And then you always have your 1 or 2 1A programs that are surprised, very good senior classes that can lead their teams together. So I love watching 1A ball, and it'll be a good season to watch them as well.
Well, and you talk about Wapsie and you talked about Janesville. Wapsie, I've seen them play a number of different sports over the last couple of years, and Wapsie has a bunch of girls who are multi-sport stars. They're just really good athletes. I think about the Boer sisters, and I think about some of the talent that's gone through there. They're so dangerous because they're so athletic and they're multi-sport players. And then Janesville, they only had 1 senior last year. So everybody's back. When I see Janesville, what I see is Shelley, like Dyke and like a lot of the smaller schools, but certainly Janesville and Dyke, I see it more than most. They play up all the time. Janesville's always at Cedar Falls' tournament. They're mixing it up with 5A schools and 4A schools. They might get beat, but that experience of playing those bigger schools is so huge when you get to the postseason.
You're 100% correct. When we were in Grinnell, my very first year, we totally revamped the schedule. We actually went 9-24. Not a great record, but we were playing the 5A schools, the Pellas, which are bigger than Grinnell, the Norwalks, the really good schools to give us that experience. It is a double-edged sword, though, because although you're getting better and you're able to go on a bigger playoff run, the way the state brackets the regional play is your top seeds get your seeds. They try to go by rankings for the rest of the 15, but they do look at win-loss percentage afterwards. So although these teams are playing very competitive schedules, if they play a very competitive schedule and they don't end the season in the rankings, they're looking at a very tough regional seeding. And that's unfortunately what happened in 3A last year with Anamosa, Tipton, Solon, and I believe Mount Vernon all ended ranked, but all in the same region because some of those teams were playing tougher teams and jumped out of the rankings for a second. And so, yes, they are playing these bigger, tougher schools. Making sure your whole schedule isn't ungoshly tough is also important. But you have an Iowa Star Conference that is rapidly growing. They're going to be adding 3 schools within the span of 2 years here, where sometimes you have games that are a little easier than others. And I think that gives you the break you need to pad your schedule a little bit, to pad your record just a little bit, to make sure you're still in a good spot no matter what.
Yeah, certainly conference play is tough. I mean, a year ago, you have to run through a gauntlet where you have to play Denver, you have to play Grundy, you have to play Dyke, you have to play Wapsie. All 4 teams would say you have to play AP. They went to state. So you finished 3rd in your division last year, but the 2 teams ahead of you were really, really good.
Yeah, not only did our pod has Denver, Dyke, us, AP, Columbus. So not only did the first and second team go to state, but we actually beat AP this last season, and they ended up getting to state. They played very well, like we talked about, and made it. It really is anyone's game. You can work really hard in season and not do well postseason. You could do very not great regular season and do great postseason. So it's a great opportunity to be in a conference that's competitive. I'm excited to see us use that this year to our advantage, and I'm sure all these other teams are in the same boat in the NICL. So
let's talk North Iowa Cedar League. Obviously, with 6 of the 15 teams going to state a year ago in different divisions, we think on paper it's a little bit more wide open. I mean, Denver has good athletes, but they graduated a really great senior class. As you said, Dyke always reloads. They do. Grundy Center lost some seniors, but they've got one of the best middles in the state coming back, who's going Division I. The NICL seems like it's a little more wide open, but there's a bunch of state caliber teams in there. And your team is one of those state caliber teams that's going to be competing for the NICL title.
I think in a really good conference like the NICL, a great senior class, unfortunately, does not win you conference. So Denver, not only a great senior class, but a great team and a great program. So the South Hardin had a very good senior class a couple years ago that did lead them to state. They were a good program. They still are competitive. Union just reloads. I feel fortunate that at Hudson right now, we have a balance between, out of my starters, it's split between sophomores and seniors this year, basically. The sophomores can learn from the experience of the seniors. Once the seniors graduate, we're not drained, not even close. And I think that's what a lot of these other programs are seeing is Wapsie might graduate Taylor Boer, their number 1 scorer, but they're not short on kids that are able to get the job done. Union, Grundy Center, yes, they graduated one of their 2 setters in their 6-2, I believe, but all their other core pieces return, and they just keep having influxes. So it's going to be good.
Your team, I've seen your girls play quite a bit in a lot of sports. And I know you don't want to brag on your team a whole bunch before the season starts, but Taylor Davis is simply one of the best all-around athletes I've ever seen. She's athletic, and she's competitive, and she's hard-nosed. She's just somebody you don't want to tangle with on a court or on a field or anywhere else, because she's playing to win always. And you don't always have those kind of kids, but you have a couple. I mean, her and her sister obviously are 2 of the backbone pieces of your program, and I like the composition of your squad this year.
Thank you. It's going to be good to have that senior leadership, that positive senior leadership with some physical new experiences for some of the younger kids, right? Taylor Davis is not one to mess with. You're right. She's terrifying at a lot of the sports she plays. I mean, Hudson soccer upsetting Denver soccer in that state championship in triple overtime or penalty kicks. Like that's the pinnacle of what they're capable of with that type of program and these athletes. We actually share about 93% program overlap with soccer right now. And I love that. I love that because these kids work hard on the soccer field. They work hard in my gym. Ashley Smiley's an incredible coach. We work very closely. I am interested to see what we could end up doing. I think we have one of the best pin combinations in the state with Paige, Natalie, and Kaylee Leary, all returning conference kids. Paige, first team all conference. Taylor definitely helps us from the setter role, a role where she can shine and be in control like she is on that soccer field. I'm excited to give these girls the season they deserve and the season that they've waited so long to have, and then take it 1 year at a time, but show that it's not just one and done is the hope.
So as we sit here on the 13th, we are 9 days away from the giant Hudson scrimmage. All those, whatever it is, 12, 14 teams coming to Hudson High School. We're 11 days away from opening night. First of all, how excited are you?
I'm so stoked. I have a couple friends who were gracious enough to come to us for opening night. So Matt Johnson's bringing Cedar Falls, who has, and I'm going to stand by this, probably the number one volleyball player in the entire state of Iowa on it with Hadassah Smith.
Yeah, she's good.
She's, oh my goodness gracious.
She's
terrifying. But Cedar Falls, Algona has one of the other top 10 kids in the state, Kate Limbaugh. She's a 6'2", 6 rotation outside. Mom just got inducted into the Nebraska Volleyball Hall of Fame this year. So they're coming in. And Cedar Ridge Christian, who did graduate, probably their best player, but I mean, they returned everybody else and they were a ranked team all of last year, regional finalists. So opening night is going to be tough, but I like that. It's going to be great for us first go of the year. And then we actually go to Humboldt on Saturday and play the Emmitsburgs and the Humboldts. Our big Mississippi Valley scrimmage event that we're hosting this year, 16 teams. Out of the 16, I can confidently say I think 8 will be ranked this year, right off the bat, potentially total of 10 by the end of the season. So very competitive and another opportunity just to obviously showcase the facilities, but also give the girls an opportunity to play before the season starts. And I just am giddy with excitement. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about volleyball season the entire off season. So, yeah.
Well, and you mentioned, I see Cedar Falls probably as much as anybody, and obviously they've got some players to replace. Annie Wedgbury graduated, Brent Bakula graduated, who's their all-time leading setter. But like a lot of these schools, Cedar Falls seems to just reload. And then Cedar Ridge Christian is just one of these programs on the rise. I know Anna Aguilar graduated, but they've got some pieces in behind her too. They're going to be decent.
Peyton as one of their hitters, she's great. Her and her sister, they're very good as well. It's a solid team. We played them last year, and actually we split with them. So we beat them the first time we played them, and then we played them in the championship and tournament. They got us. They got us by 2 points. They're a team to watch out for sure.
Well, Zach, we're going to let you get ready for the season, but once we get into that regular season play, we're going to get you back on here every week. We're going to talk volleyball across the state, CNICL, what you're seeing out there. I want to pump up this high school volleyball across Iowa. And I know you're the guy that can help us do it because you got your fingers in the pulse, and I'm looking forward to it.
I really appreciate this opportunity, Chad. I love talking volleyball. My wife and I are both coaches. It's what we do all the time. I'm grateful for the coverage you guys give my athletes, and I want to bring Hudson to state to give these girls the season they deserve. And I love doing these sorts of things to give them the attention they deserve also, all the girls in the state that are putting in hard work in volleyball. Thank you, Chad, for the opportunity, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Awesome, Zach. We'll hook up again in probably about 2 weeks, and we'll start doing this every week during the volleyball season.
Thank you, Chad.
All right, thanks so much. Wow, great interview with Zac Ceresa. The guy knows volleyball. He knows volleyball. He's got a good program. I know he's being kind of humble about it, but Hudson's going to be really good. The NICL is going to be really good. The CIML is going to be incredibly good. Milwaukee Northwest has just an incredible girls program. So does Valley. So the 2 Ankeny schools. There's going to be some great volleyball across the state this year, and we're going to talk about it all season long. We're going to be talking football too, or we're talking other sports as well, but we're going to talk a lot about football and volleyball this fall and showcase some of these great teams and some of these fantastic coaches, and obviously some of these amazing players that will go on to play college volleyball at the JUCO level, at D3, D2, D1, all over America. We're going to be doing that when the season starts up here in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much for watching the Chad Harberts Show. We're powered by the Sports Guys Iowa Network. You can check out all of our great shows on our YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We got the Peacock Corner. We got those guys covered. We got Missouri Valley Conference basketball covered. And of course, we have the state of Iowa covered when it comes to high school sports. So thanks for checking us out. I'm Chad Harberts. We'll see you again soon.